Tell us Sagar's story. Sagar means ocean and it was created by King Sagar. Hello and welcome to my channel. I am reading book Devlok with Devdutt Patnayak and I was reading part 11, Ram's Ancestors. So let's continue. The story goes that Sagar is performing a yajna, his 1000th, and upon its completion he will become the king of heaven. Indra becomes nervous and steals the king's horse and hides it in Kapil Muni ashram. Sagar asks his son to find the horse so that he can complete the yajna. They start digging the earth to look for the horse and end up creating such a deep ditch that when water collects in it, it becomes the ocean. So, Sagar's sons are credited with creating the ocean. Finally, at the end of their search, they arrive at Kapil Muni's ashram and accuse him of having stolen the horse. Kapil Muni is doing tapasya and gets very angry at being disturbed. He opens his eyes and reduces all of Sagar's sons to ash. Devastated by his son's death, Sagar wonders how to get them back. He prays to the gods who tell him that if the ash is put into the water of heavenly river Mandakini, they'll be reborn. Thus, the concept of rebirth is introduced through this story in the Valmiki Ramayana. But how was the king going to get the river from the heavens to the earth? His grandson Anshuman does tapasya, as does Dilip, but they do not succeed in this near impossible task. Finally, Bhagirath, their descendant, is granted a boon that he will be able to bring the river down to earth. Even today, taking up an extremely difficult task is called Bhagirath Prayas. The famous story of the river flowing to earth through Shiva's dreadlock is also part of his tale. The river comes to earth, Sagar's sons' ashes are submerged in it and they are reborn. Thereafter, the river flows into the ocean that Sagar's sons had created. This is how Ram is connected with the ocean, the Ganga, and rebirth. Ram's name is chanted during the last rites because he is connected with the idea of rebirth. This is not an ordinary story because for the first time Indian philosophy was conveyed to the people through this medium. Amidst all these serious stories, are there any romantic stories related with Raghukul? The most romantic story is that of Ram and Sita, which makes up a major part of the Ramayana, where there are so many complexities. Another story is about Ram's ancestors, Aj, which is narrated by Kalidas in the Raghuvansham. Indumati is a beautiful princess who chooses King Aj in a Swayamvar and marries him. They are happy and deeply in love. Unfortunately, once, while out on a stroll, the queen is crushed by a falling tree. The king is grief stricken. He continues to grieve, and finally, when their son Dashrath turns 15, Aj hands over the throne to him and says he will take sannyas. This is a serious story, but also one of the few instances where a husband is shown grieving for his wife. Usually, it's the other way around. It is always a woman who is shown in bereavement, virahaduk. However, Kalidas frequently shows men pinning for women, Dushyant for Shakuntala, Aj for Indumati. Aj's story is so tragic, his grief so intense that he cannot live without his wife. It is not quite sati, but he takes Jal Samadhi. This too is about integrity, albeit within personal relation. The story of Raghukul was associated with Sagar, Dharm, Earth, Kam. It's a glorious family. What is the story of Bhagirath's birth? This story is from the Kritivas Ramayana from Bengal. Since it's not from the original text, it is slightly controversial. King Dilip has two wives but no children. So he organizes the Putrakameshti Yagya for a child, as Dashrath does too. However, while the yajna is being conducted, Dilip dies. His widowed wives wonder what to do with the payas, the portion that has emerged from the yajna. They consume it and make love to each other, of which a baby is born. In the tantric school of thought, it's said that a baby's solid parts, such as the bones, comes from the father, and flesh and blood from the mother. Since this child is created by mother alone, it does not have bones. It's just a lump of flesh and blood. The queens don't know what to do. Say Ashtavakra comes and bless the child and it acquires bone. The child is then named Bhagirath. This one talks a lot about integrity. Are there no negative characters here? Just as any tree may have some bad fruit, there are a few unsavory characters here too. In the Purans, there are recurring stories of the competition between Vishwamitra and Vasishtha. The latter is a Devarishi, while the former is a king who becomes a rishi. One of Vasishtha's sons, Shakti, was said to have cursed Vishwamitra's son, Sudas, that he'd be a cannibal, Narbhakshi. As a result, he would not be able to have relations with his wife. Saudas was a Raghuvanshi, and after the curse, people were scared of him. Another slightly negative character is Trishanku. His name was originally Satyavrat, but he commits three big crimes. He kills a cow, eats its flesh, and has an adulterous relationship with a married woman, which earns him the new name. As punishment, his father drives him away from home. He goes into the forest, does tapasya, and asks to be accepted in heaven. Indra in Swarglok says that because he is a sinner, he cannot enter heaven. When Vasishtha refuses to help him, he goes to Vishwamitra, who promises to send him to heaven. But Indra does not want him in Swarglok, so Trishanku gets stuck between heaven and earth. To call someone Trishanku is a reference to he who is stuck between two worlds, who belongs neither here nor there. Trishanku is also of the Suryavansh. One of my NRI friends calls himself Trishanku. He says he is neither an Indian nor an American. He doesn't belong to any one place. Whenever we talk of the Suryavansh and the Chandravansh, we talk only of men. Weren't there any women in these vanshas? If we look at Puranic stories through a modern lens, it's quite depressing because they are dominated by men. Vansh is always seen as male lineage. A king passes his throne to his son, and it continues like that. Historically, there have been queens in India and they have played important roles, but the Vansh lineage is not traced through them. Although the Pandavas are called Kaunteya, they are said to be descendants of Pandu, not Kunti. This division is always there. So, this is it for today. I'll be back. Till then, keep listening beautiful stories and keep smiling.